All right, everybody, welcome back to the #1 television program in the history of the entire universe. I am Brian Lee Durfee, author of The Forgetting Moon, The Blackest Heart, and The Lonesome Crown, all three books published by Simon & Schuster's Saga Press. Today I'm going to be reviewing The Emperor's Tomb by Steve Berry. This is book number 6 in his Cotton Malone international thriller series, where he discovers conspiracy theories and Da Vinci Code-esque Illuminati type, world-ending events, and his main character, Cotton Malone, solves all those problems by the end of the book. Okay, so this is book number 6. Let's talk about the cover first, because I love graphic design and cover illustration. I think this cover is all right. I mean, I've got all the other Steve Berry Cotton Malone books up here. We'll pan through the library and I'll show you. They're up there on the top shelf right up there. But anyway, I think that this might be one of the weaker covers of the Cotton Malone series, because usually they're pretty fucking dope. But this one's just kind of plain. I'll show it to you. It's just got it hasn't got a lot going on. I mean, I like the gold foil. That's kind of snazzy. But anyway, so let's talk about the things. There's a map in this book of China, because this book talks a lot about China, Chinese history, Chinese politics, a lot of stuff. There's a map of China in there. There's also a timeline in the book, a timeline of historical events in the China's historical events, which pertain to this novel. Now, on the back of this novel, there's a great quote from the Sacramento Bee. I'm assuming that's a newspaper, not an actual bee in Sacramento. Okay, but to read a tale by Steve Berry is to become an armchair. God, I shouldn't even read aloud. I don't even know why I try to read aloud. Okay, let me start over. From the Sacramento Bee, which is apparently a very, very, very brilliant bug living in Sacramento. To read a tale by Steve Berry is to become an armchair world traveler and an instant historian. His stories are fast-moving, solid with research and provocative. I shouldn't read this. His stories are fast-moving, solid, with research and provocative. This one, I don't. The bee in Sacramento wrote a sentence. It's solid with research and provocative. I don't know why the sentence just ends right there, because it seems like it shouldn't. We'll edit most of that out, because I don't want to insult the bee in Sacramento for being a shitty writer. Steve Berry, on the other hand, is a fantastic writer. I love these books. So some of the points on the timeline I will read, because they are just kind of plot points to the story. I mean, some of the things we read on the Chinese history timeline is, 1700 BC, the Shang dynasty. That's the earliest known histories we have of it. Confucius lived around 500 BC. The origin of the eunuch system in China was started around also 500 BC. Now, the eunuch system, which makes me shudder, was a big deal in China back in the day, and Steve Berry does go into some kind of graphic scenes involving eunuchs and how that happens. If you don't know what a eunuch is, folks, just Google it. I'm not gonna, but it'll make if you watch Game of Thrones, there's a whole army of eunuchs. Anyway, I digress. But anyway, so we've got this Qin Shi, who is a very important first emperor in China. And then we've got the Terracotta Warriors, if you know what those are. When 200 BC was the Chinese first drilled for oil, which is very important to this book. Okay, so in 1912, that's not that long ago. The last emperor is forced from the throne, Dynastic rule ends, the eunuch system is abolished, and the Republic of China is formed. It's crazy how the eunuchs ruled China for quite a while. The Terracotta Army was discovered in 1974. And if you know what the Terracotta Army was, it was like hundreds and hundreds of sculpted soldiers that were placed in a tomb with one of the Chinese leaders. Anyway, and you can see it now. It's like it's dynamite. I've never seen it, but I've heard it's dynamite. So we open in this book. We open with Cotton Malone, our character, our main character. He via the internet, via a Zoom meeting, or something like that. His friend and someone he's kind of interested in romantically, a woman named Cassiopeia Witt, has been kidnapped. And he opens up and they are waterboarding Cassiopeia Witt right in front of him on this Zoom meeting. And they're saying, listen, we will stop the torture of your friend if you bring us an artifact. An artifact that Cassiopeia has asked you to keep safe. In fact, they basically say, bring me the artifact she asked you to keep safe. And Cotton Malone is like, what artifact did she ever ask me to keep safe? And that's the adventure. We have to figure out what the artifact is. We have to save Cassiopeia Witt from the torturers, the people that are waterboarding her. And as we do this, we get a world-spanning adventure. That's why I read this thing on the back by that bug, the bee or whatever it was in San Francisco that reads a lot of books, which I don't understand that. But anyway, it says, to read a tale by Steve Berry is to become an armchair world traveler and an instant historian. That's why I like these kind of Da Vinci Code-esque mystery series by James Rollins as Sigma Force, like, Robert Langdon mystery novels by Dan Brown, the Da Vinci Code. I love these because you do really become an armchair quarterback. Is that what they called? Is that what the bee called it? No, an armchair world traveler and an instant historian. So some of the things we learn in this book are the secret of the Terracotta Warriors, which I mentioned. What were they built for? Why are they there? Is there a big world-ending catastrophic secret to these things? We learn that over 70,000 children in China are kidnapped per year and given to different people. And it's mostly the boys because we know in China they had this thing where you could only have one children and it best be a son, so they all just aborted their girl babies, and now we've got gazillions of male Chinese with nobody to marry or have a girlfriend because they had this implementation, this where you could only have a boy, and if some people couldn't have boys, well, there was this whole underground market of people kidnapping young baby boys and giving them to families that could pay for it, and crazy. We also learn about the censoring of the internet in China and how that has affected the communists. How communism has just affected everything. Like, it's just, we learn how these oppressive regimes just do weird shit to their communities and that they're ruling. And then we learn about the how to torture people using rats. I talked about the eunuchs and how that made I don't want that happening to me. I also don't want to be tortured by rats. I also don't want to be tortured using chili powder, which is something we hear. And then the origins of oil and the debate of where oil really comes from. What is it? Like, I always just assumed it was like, dinosaur bones and dinosaur guts mixed with like leafy rainforest type vegetation that had just been compressed over time and into oil. And then it's just down there. But apparently not all scientists are on board with that theory, that there might be some other thing that has created the oil, big cavities of oil underneath us. And we don't necessarily know. There is no consensus, I guess, is what this book's premise is of where, because the Chinese were drilling for it way before Americans were. Well, that makes sense. Anyway, this is a dope book. I really like this. I give this a solid 8 stars out of 10 for The Emperor's Tomb by Steve Berry. Thank you very much.